going on, everybody? Austin here with Tactical Approach Outdoors, and welcome to the first episode of our Hunt Breakdown series. So we're very excited about adding this to our channel. We wanted to add something that would help more along with the educational side of the hunt and everything that went with the hunt. So the tactics that went into it, kind of the backstory of the property or that stand location, as well as everything that went on during the hunt itself. Because there's a lot that happens that in the entertainment video that you see that you don't necessarily actually know what's going on. You see the fun of the hunt, you actually see everything that happened, you see the story, but what's the backstory of everything that happened during that day and what led into that day? And that's what these videos are for, and that's what we're very excited about bringing to you and adding to our channel. So first off, let's talk about that big 170 that I shot this year on, what was that, November 18th. So that is my biggest deer by far. He 15 inches above my previous biggest, and the cool part was that his 8-point frame, he's a 10-point, but his 8-point frame was actually 5 inches larger than my previous deer who had a 12-point frame. So that just shows you kind of how big that deer was, and it was just awesome. That was a very fun day. I not only him at the end of the day, but that other really big non-typical that came by an hour and a half prior to him. That was insane. Those are the two biggest deer that I've ever seen on stand, and to have two of them in that close proximity to each other on public land is just insane. So that was a lot of fun. So let's dive into it. What was the backstory of this particular stand? So I started hunting this property last year. I wasn't so sure about it at first. I had a good feeling about it because the access was kind of funny, and I like that. So I'll typically work a little bit harder than most other people to get into a spot. I'm not afraid of that. So it's a smaller property, which is what made me hesitant to first. I like the bigger properties because it gives me a lot of options, and the smaller properties tend to really get flushed out if you get any kind of pressure on them. So it's kind of all or nothing kind of situation. The cool part though is this property was actually kind of difficult to hunt. It's thick, it's got a lot of cover, it's ridgy, so that gives these animals a place to hide and a place to escape the pressures, which is fantastic. So after finding this spot last year, I noticed that this one particular location had the concentration of scrapes that I was looking for. Nowhere else on the property had the same kind of converging movement. So I'm pulling from trails from all directions. This ridge kind of funnels together at this point here, and these deer have multiple big scrapes last year at this one particular location, and it's right under a huge producing white oak. So last year I couldn't get up in that oak. It was just too big, and it needed a little bit of work. So this year, prior to season, I went in, did some work, and I put a stand up in this tree, and I got up in this tree that I've been super excited about it. So got it set prior to season, and it was ready to hunt. Put a couple hunts in it earlier in the year and saw some deer. Liked what I was seeing. The scrapes were a little bit slower to pick up this season than they were last year. So I backed out a little bit just to kind of let it do its thing. Let the deer come in, do their stuff. And right about the time that the scrapes were starting to pick up is when I actually got on my 9-point in my river bottom property there middle of October. So that'll be another video. I'll tell you guys about that deer. We'll go into that. So after I shot that deer, I couldn't shoot another deer in Missouri until gun season. So by the time this hunt came around, I actually couldn't. That was it was a month and a half, I think it was, that I hunted this stand. So I was super pumped to get in here and hunt it. I went in to do some scouting 4 days prior to that. So I went in on Thursday to hunt. Monday I went in to do some scouting, and I found some incredibly fresh sign, huge rubs. I mean, just massive rubs that weren't there a month before, and the scrapes had just shifted. So I got things set up, and I found the fresh sign. I was on them. I felt comfortable about where it was, and I had this cold front coming in on Thursday, and I knew that I needed to be in a tree on that day. So I wasn't necessarily planning on taking off work, but when you got something like that, I bit the bullet and did it, and I'm sure glad I did. So I hit that cold front. Let's see here, what would the temperature drop? You'll see here. So we had real hot days leading into that. We were above 60. 2 days prior to that, we were in the 70s. And then on the 18th, it dropped down. A high temperature was in the high 40s, and lows that morning was looking right around 30 degrees. So fantastic hunting weather. That is exactly what we're looking for when we're looking for a specific, precise hunt. We're on fresh sign, converging movement, and we got this awesome cold front and drop in temperature that we're going to hunt. So I went in there that morning, and the winds picked up pretty quick. I'll show you the what happened during the day here. As you can see, the wind gusts throughout the day were pretty high. So winds picked up pretty quick actually after daylight, and temperatures still weren't bad. So it was just a cold day. Northwest wind all day, wind gusts, most of the day. So it was very slow. Saw a small buck, and then also saw a pretty decent buck that morning, a lot earlier in the day before the winds kind of really picked up. And then it was nothing all day. And then once those winds dropped off, I think I had about an hour and a half of daylight left when those winds dropped off. I love that situation. I will sit an entire day through some nasty wind knowing that I've got that hour to an hour and a half drop coming at the end of the day, because that just spikes movement. Those deer will stay bedded down all day, and right at the end of that day, they're going to get up and they're going to move. So that's exactly what happened. So right after that wind dropped off, I started seeing does, and I saw that massive non-typical. I mean, he was huge. So I saw him work through and saw those does moving, and it was a trail just below me that I wasn't actually on these deer. They're within 100 yards, but they're every bit of 100 yards out. I was kind of up on the ridge. They were down the bottoms, and it looked like maybe I had some does and heat down there, because as concentrated as that trail was, everything was moving on that trail. So I was kind of I was scanning, trying to find trees. So really I was looking for tomorrow's hunt, the next day. So I was putting a plan together for the next day to make a move down there to hunt that trail. And there towards last light, I saw some does coming. Then all of a sudden I saw this big deer coming down that trail, down on the bottom. And at first I actually thought it was that big non-typical, because he had a big 10-point. That non-typical had a big kind of a 10-point frame, and this dude had a big 10-point frame. So it was very difficult at low light to actually see whether it was that non-typical or not. But that's exactly that's who I thought it was at first. And he started coming in. He was grunting in the bottom, and I was pretty excited, hoping that they were going to come up to me. Then all of a sudden, these does started coming up the ridge. So I'm fumbling with my camera. I'm getting the exposure set, because I'm losing light with my camera really fast. I'm getting my bow ready, making sure I can make an ethical shot on this animal. And if I couldn't make an ethical shot on this animal, I wasn't even going to try. So I was really kind of hunter and cameraman, really going back and forth, trying to figure out, am I going to get a shot? Can I even make a shot? And two, can I get this on film even? I wasn't sure what it was going to look like, but I figured, I saw that I had enough on camera that I could kind of make it work. And as a hunter, I had enough light that it was an ethical shot. I was not concerned about it. I knew my shooting lanes. I could see everything, so I felt good about it. So he came by. I mean, I had less than 5 minutes left of this hunt, really, before I couldn't shoot. So that was, he came by just so perfectly. So the does coming through right in front of me, 20 yards. He's following this one particular doe So she must have been in heat, which made me, this is exactly why I had those two bucks concentrated together, as they were both looking for that one doe. So she came by right in front of me. He wasn't far behind her, and I tried stopping him the first time, and it was kind of a quiet stop that I tried, and he had no clue. He wasn't even listening. So I knew I had one last shooting lane, a big shooting lane that I could get him in, and I had to get him stopped. That was my last chance. So I basically yelled at this deer and finally got him stopped. I made a perfect shot on him, and I mean, I heard him crash across the ridge, so I wasn't concerned about him going anywhere. I just kind of stopped and listened just to make sure he wasn't walking off, just to really try and listen to where he was and in the direction that he was laying. And I didn't hear anything coming from that direction after he crashed, so I felt very confident in where he was. And that was just awesome. I couldn't believe what happened. I was in shock. I wasn't at all expecting a deer of that caliber to come by, and I mean, that's what we hunt for, but it's truly one of those once in a lifetime deer, and it was just too cool. So I can definitely tell you I'm still on cloud nine. we're a good month and a half after the fact, so I'm loving it. This is a lot of fun. So that was pretty simple breakdown for this hunt. It wasn't really a trip. It was very much I knew what was going on. I had the historical pattern to this stand. I had the stand set already, and really I was waiting for that fresh sign and that fresh cold front to make a move, and I got it. And luckily it was a 170 that came by, but I'm telling you right now, I was there to shoot a 140. So I knew that a really good deer was using the area. I just didn't know 100% what it was. And luckily it was a giant. So I'm very stoked about it. So I'll show you guys what else we're going to do here. A big key actually that went into the success is the Lucky Whiskey. So if y'all don't have any, need some, this right here is my personal Lucky Whiskey, the Red Stag. So I got a shot for you guys. Good luck, happy hunting, go get yourselves a big one. The next video we're going to do, I'm actually going to talk about that 9-point. So stay tuned, and we'll see you on the next video.